All right, AJ, Howell, Larry Weir, we're back to talk about the Eastern Washington Eagles again. A rough one this past weekend versus Montana State.
Yeah. They just, it started out bad, AJ, and it just kept, the snowball kept going downhill. They couldn't stop it. They couldn't on offense get a drive going to where even they'd get a couple of first downs. They couldn't get a good punt. And so first quarter, Montana State starts out with the worst field position at their own 47 and started 3 times in Eastern territory. For the first half, they started 4 times in Eastern's end of the field and once at the 47. So that led to their 30 first half points. When they started at their own 25 and their own 18, they didn't score. So if Eastern could have gotten some offense early on, not necessarily points, but at least got the ball out toward midfield and then gotten a good punt, maybe the game would have been a little different. Maybe it wouldn't have. I mean, in the end, Eastern still may not have won, but at least it wouldn't have been basically what it was, which was, I'm sure, an embarrassment.
Yeah. Coach Best was saying that, there were a lot more wide eyes in this situation than he expected, that it's a younger group, and we know the arena that they were stepping into, and it was just a lot. And, you kind of get in a cycle there of just what you're saying with field position and then just explosive play after explosive play coming from the other side. But what did you see offensively, having Jared Taylor back? A little mix of everything, different faces and all of that. Obviously they were playing behind, just trying to get something going, but what did you see out of that with Taylor back?
It was rough for Jared. I mean, obviously AJ, he had sat out for a couple of weeks. I don't know if that was rust or, just maybe they tried to do too much, tried to do too many things with both Jared and Nate on the field. Maybe they needed to simplify things a little bit and maybe just go with more of a straight ahead game plan with one or the other, or just alternating the two but doing the same thing with both of them one at a time rather than both of them out there together. So it just was it was really rough, especially the first half offensively. Second half wasn't much better, maybe a little bit better, but they've got some things to figure out offensively, exactly what they want to do and who's going to be the signal caller and the lead signal caller, at least for the time being here this season.
Yeah, Aaron was saying, they're not exactly sure what that looks like moving forward. And again, it depends on the percentage that Taylor comes in at. He wasn't 100%. He was, able to play, but not at his best. What do you see potential-wise for this offense, and when you know who the starter is and it's clear, and whether they find another role to keep QB 1 or 2, whoever is who by that point in the season, in the game in a different role? Because as Coach said, they're great ball players, they're playmakers. It's just figuring out maybe roles a little bit.
Yeah, I think so a little bit, and I think it also starts up front. They've had a lot of injuries, especially guard on the offensive line, and so when you keep rotating in new guys, that makes it hard, because they don't really have the experience or the size or the strength maybe at this point to be able to just go and open up holes like they could last year with that offensive line. All seniors, they were guys that had been around the bend for a while, and they knew what they were doing, and they were 22, 23 years old. They weren't 19 or 20 like some of the guys are on the offensive line this year. They were guys with more experience. They were all seniors, all been around for 4 or 5 years of college football. So this year, Eastern doesn't have that, so they've got to kind of figure some things out maybe up front, number one. But then also with the quarterbacks, I think they need to kind of figure out who's going to be the lead and who's going to be the supporting role there. And then at the wide receiver position, at the tight end position, at the running back position, everybody needs to also improve as well this year. But I think it all starts up front, and then figuring out who that guy is going to be that's going to be the number 1 quarterback. And doesn't mean you can't play 2, but I think you've got to have a clear number 1. And we'll see whether the practice this week will maybe lead them toward a decision there.
Does this stretch that Eastern is having remind you of any other year since you've been involved with the Eagles?
Boy, not really. I suppose you could go back maybe the 1994-95 in that time, because Eastern was coming off 2 successful years in 92 and 93, but graduated a lot of guys over those 2 years. And so when you got to 94, then you ended up with young guys. So the 97 team that ended up going to the 1AA at the time, now FCS semifinals, were freshmen and sophomores on that 94 and 95. Those teams took their lumps, especially in 95 when Mike Kramer, the head coach at the time, just basically last 3 games of the year said, okay, sophomores, go out there and go for it. You seniors, thanks, but you're done. And he let the sophomores go out there, and I think they gave up like 160 points or something in 3 weeks. But that gave them some experience leading into 96, and then obviously for their senior year in 97, that ended up being a great year for Eastern. So, different rules, different times. So now if you get some young freshmen and sophomores in there as hot shots, they might not be with you in their junior and senior years. So everything is different now, but I think probably those 2 years would be closest to what we're experiencing right now at Eastern.
Did you see a bright spot in this past weekend? Was there any position group or anything that you saw that you were like, well, at least X, Y, and Z?
For 60 minutes, no. For 30 minutes, yes. And it was the defensive line. And it's crazy because you give up 30 points in the first half of play and roughly 300 yards, and you'd say, well, nobody played very well in the defensive end. But Montana State averaged 2.7 yards per rush in the first half of play, and they are a primarily running team. So to hold them to that level was a good effort, I thought, by the D-line. They got a sack or 2 on the quarterback in that time. Unfortunately, there were some problems in the secondary that led to 3 or 4 big pass plays that ended up costing Eastern touchdowns when that happened, and they've got to clean some stuff up in the back end, but I do think the D-line, at least for a half, played pretty well.
Okay. So moving forward to this week's matchup, it's homecoming, so that's exciting. Hopefully a great fan showing there. Hosting Portland State, a team that has not won a game yet, which, you can kind of pick your path there on whether you think, oh, okay, good, like this one should be easier, or this group is gritty. They're looking for a win. Eastern's been in that position fairly, recently, where they're like, let's just get something in the win column. The Vikings have had quite a front-loaded schedule. From what you've seen, like, how do you know what to expect when you have this team that hasn't been able to pull off a victory, but they've hung in there with some sizable opponents?
I think you look at the latest games first, and so you look at their game against Northern Arizona, which was a Big Sky Conference game against a good Big Sky Conference team. They were competitive. They lost 31-17, but they didn't get their doors blown off by a team that probably could have done that. So the guys have stayed bought in. I think you can kind of figure that one out. They played competitively against Hawaii the week before that. And so they've already, through this first half of the season, run 4 different quarterbacks out there. I think they've settled on a quarterback at this point in time. I think they've had a lot of injuries at wide receiver. They're breaking in a new offensive line, kind of like what Eastern is doing. I think they may be getting better offensively. Their defense has been a major problem for them, but some of that is because of the people they've played. They're giving up close to 300 yards a game on the ground. And so Eastern's running game, outside of the quarterback run game, hasn't been that great. Could this be the week that maybe we see a running back break out and have a good game? We'll see what happens. Eastern's offensive line, maybe they'll find some success against these guys defensively. We'll see what happens. But I look back at the last 2 games Portland State has played, and that tells me they're starting to figure it out a little bit, giving up 27 points a game in those 2 games on average, and even though they're still allowing a fair amount of yardage on the ground. So we'll see what happens on Saturday, but I think this is an improving team. They're probably looking at this game thinking, hey, we've got a chance to win this. And hopefully Eastern's looking at this game and saying, we've got a chance to win this. Both teams will come in playing their best football. Their head coach, Bruce Barnum's an Eastern grad, so he never minds beating Eastern Washington when he gets an opportunity. So should end up being a good game on Saturday, AJ.
Yeah, and the players we're talking about, obviously it always means a lot to them to protect the red, but there's also a trophy on the line.
Yes, the damn cup.
The damn cup. It's important.
And that would be signifying it's not D-A-M-N, it's just the D-A-M, which is signifying all the hydroelectric dams on the Columbia River that separate Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, but it's an important, that nobody can forget the damn cup. So
You know what? I forgot that we were playing for
no, Larry.
I mean, you've got, the guys down in Moscow are saying that we were playing for the whatever they're calling the Chiskow Cup or whatever it is.
Chiskow.
So now you've got they've got too many cups for an old guy to try to keep track
Okay,
of.
so you're not a fan of the
I wasn't a fan
hardware.
when they made that thing. I didn't understand it. You're trying to manufacture a rivalry when Portland State, frankly, gets 1,000 people at a home game.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not that many people that have bought in on it down there. Not that many people have bought in on their football team down there. So, and I just, no. I if you're asking me, do I buy or sell the damn cup? I am selling it.
Good to know. Good to know. I was excited about it, but I don't have the perspective of, the Eastern side of things. I'm like a neutral member on it, so that's good to know that people are not huge on the damn cup.
I'm also one of those, grouchy old guys that might be a get off the lawn moment. So.
Come on. Well, Aaron had some strong feelings about the damn cup and that he wants it, so, which is good.
Yeah.
But
and hopefully the team wants it, and hopefully they go get it on Saturday. They haven't beaten Portland State in a few years, so
right.
We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. We'll be listening to you. The game will be on SWX, so we'll just be looking to see who takes home the damn cup.
Absolutely.
It's not going to be Larry.
It won't be me.
Larry will be leaving it on the field. Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, AJ.